Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we won't do anything and everything to save her, ladies and gentlemen. Well, man, I don't know about where you are, but I gotta tell you, it is a beautiful day to re-elect Donald J. Trump, baby. 4 more years. It's election day. I can't believe it's actually here. It's amazing, is it not? And people are lining up to vote. I passed several precincts on my way here, and my little hometown of Hawthorne, we had about 20 people deep waiting to vote out there right at 7 o'clock in the morning. So get out there and vote. Anyway, we're going to talk about election day. We're going to talk about some various stories. We got one story for you about legal challenges. They've already started legal challenges, both Republicans and Democrats, before the votes have even been counted. Imagine that. We'll get into that a little bit and about what to expect on election day and election night and post-election as well. And will there be election day violence? Well, that's really not a question. We know there's going to be, and we talk a little bit about that. Before we go any further, I got a couple of quick announcements. One is our sponsor. Always check out our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. Look at the top of our show, no matter where or when you're watching it. You'll see a description above the video of our show. Look on there, you'll see a sponsorship link. Click on that, Big Daddy Guns, and you may need it. I'm not necessarily advocating this, but you may need it more now than ever, no matter what, because it's all things Second Amendment. You get factory direct pricing on guns, ammunition, tactical gear, swag, everything you can possibly imagine, Second Amendment related, thousands of items shipped directly to you, yes, at factory direct pricing. Also, tonight, Big Daddy Unlimited is sponsoring our watch party. We're going to have a watch party tonight. Tentatively, I'd say it'll start about 9 o'clock tonight, but we may do a few pops before then. But right around 9 o'clock, we should have some returns coming in, and we'll start talking about that, and we'll probably talk about it off and on through the night. That'll be across all of our Facebook networks, the ones John Martin Talks, Excluded, Media Measures. I don't know about some of the others, probably Citizens for Trump. Good morning, howdy, how are you? I know America's Voice News, good morning. We're broadcast on there live every day, Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. They're going to have intensive coverage of election night, and it'll be broadcast as well across our Facebook networks. They, by the way, rebroadcast our show on a nightly basis as a late night show, America's Voice News. Download the free app on your Android, your iPhone. It's Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219 Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. And absolutely, do not forget our YouTube channel. Spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. You can watch anything we're doing on there as well. Not everybody, as I say all the time, can be a fighter, but everybody can support. I'm excited today, baby. I'm excited. Support those of us in the fight, and that's why I need your help. Check out our sponsorship link. All right, let's go right into the show here. This is a New York Times article. As voting ends, battle intensifies over which ballots will count. Well, we'll see. They're counting ballots. So it should be counting ballots all the way to Christmas, right? That's what we're hearing. So hopefully we'll have a winner tonight. And I got a solution that I'm going to tell you how we can have a winner tonight, baby. Let's get into this article. With the election coming to a close, the Trump and Biden campaigns, voting rights organizations, and conservative groups, so it's voting rights organizations, not like progressive liberal organizations, right, are raising money and dispatching armies of lawyers for what could become a state-by-state, county-by-county legal battle over which ballots will ultimately be counted. Well, the Constitution covers this, ladies and gentlemen. It does cover it, but they don't follow it, right? The Constitution, literally, the progressives want to burn the dadgum thing, shred it, if nothing else. But this is, a lot of people don't seem to understand, so let me just educate some of you out there. Presidential election is literally a state-by-state election. Yes, it's nationwide, but that's why the polling about national polling doesn't mean much. It's a state-by-state race. And the Constitution specifically leaves it up to state legislatures. This is very important. The Constitution leaves it up to the state legislatures to determine the election laws in general. There's a few kind of exceptions, but in general, to like the election date is set by the Constitution. But how you vote, how the votes are counted, all that is generally done by the state legislatures. Why that is so important is because the majority of these challenges, and we're only going to get into a handful, they literally are county by county, certainly state by state, going to happen. A lot of these problems are because the state legislature was bypassed by the court systems and other organizations, the get out the vote organizations or preserve the vote, whatever, the liberal organizations for the most part, and they changed the rules in some cases literally just a couple of weeks before the actual election. And the state legislatures, Pennsylvania is a great example of this, were bypassed. And so that's where the feds would come in and ultimately potentially the Supreme Court of the United States, because if the laws were passed that changed the election laws in any given state or county for that matter, and they weren't done by the state's legislature, they are by their very nature unconstitutional. So that's where all of this comes in, and that's why filling that seat with Amy Coney Barrett was very important. The deployments involving hundreds of lawyers on both sides go well beyond what has become normal since the disputed outcome of 2000, the hanging chads, Florida hanging chads, the recount, if you will, under Bush and Gore. But why was it disputed, the 2000 election? Let's revisit it for just a second. The Democrats lost. That's why it was a disputed election. That's why it was, quote, a controversial election, because the Democrats lost. If George Bush had lost, it wouldn't have been controversial at all. It would have been, oh, well, you know, the right side prevailed and they just tried to steal the election and they didn't get away with it. And the Democrats won. The righteous side, the Democrats won. Because when you have a, quote, disputed election, isn't it pretty much always that the Republicans won? Has there ever really been a disputed Democratic election? Because this is something that rarely gets talked about. Go back to the Al Gore deal with Florida. They actually did recount the votes in Florida. Now, he wanted a second recount. He wanted a specific recount. What Gore made a huge mistake, and that he advocated a recount of certain precincts, certain counties, instead of an overall Florida recount. And that really is what the Supreme Court ruled on and shut it down, that they weren't going to do that. Now, the reality is, had Gore actually gotten a statewide recount, which was done, I believe, twice. And believe it or not, contrary to what the media tries to spin it, George Bush, love him, hate him, whatever, George W. Bush won the election in Florida by roughly about 500, less than one vote per precinct. Less than one vote per precinct in the United States of America is the difference between Al Gore being president and Bush being president. So two things to take away from that. One, Bush, love him, hate him, whatever, was legitimately elected president of the United States. He was. There was a recount in Florida. The other thing is every single last vote matters. That's why it's about today. If you are thinking about voting for Biden, I hope I can change your mind before the show's over. If you're thinking about not voting or voting for anybody other than Donald Trump, you're actually voting for Joe Biden. That's the way it really amounts to. I know there's all kinds of people say, oh, that's not true. That's the effect. Because every vote that doesn't go to Trump is one vote taken away for him winning. And it could literally come down to less than one vote per precinct. It has before in the state of Florida, and certainly it could come down to that in Pennsylvania. Back to the article. So it says here that go well beyond the deployments involving hundreds of lawyers on both sides go well beyond what has become normal since disputed outcome of 2000 and are the result of the open efforts of President Trump and the Republicans to disqualify votes on technicalities and baseless charges of fraud at the end. This is the article saying this, not me, the New York Times. At the end of a campaign in which the voting system has been severely tested by coronavirus. So let me give you my thoughts on that paragraph. First of all, severely tested by coronavirus. How? How is it actually? Now, I understand all the fear and everything, and some of it I believe was legitimate based on the information at the time. But if you go back and actually look at the primaries in the 2020 Democratic primaries, and of course, there were primaries for the president as well. He basically had no opposition, but people voted for him overwhelmingly. In some places, they voted more for him than they voted in the Democratic side. But there's no real documented cases that I'm aware of. Chime in on Facebook, tell me where I'm wrong, or YouTube. I'll respond to you as quickly as I possibly can, where the coronavirus actually infected, in other words, a super spreader, if you want to use that term, due to people showing up at the polls. In fact, there's just the opposite. What was it? I want to say it was Minnesota, might have been Wisconsin. So there was one where they challenged about having on the day of voting. I think it was the last big primary they had for Biden when he won, of course. And there were people standing in line for hours and everything else. There was no documented super spreader cases out of that. So I don't know how much the pandemic has actually in reality impacted the election. Now, it has impacted it greatly, but not in what I would call based on reality, based on fear, which is what the Democrats have been doing. So I don't know that part is really true. And then they talk about baseless charges of potential and real voter fraud. Well, first of all, there are tons of actual real charges. Go to the Heritage Foundation and look at there. They have a long list of over 1,000 people who have been prosecuted over the last 10 years or so for voter fraud. And it's by far the majority is Democrat. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, what difference would evidence make to the mainstream media and the Democratic Party and progressives who are voting for Joe Biden? Do you need any evidence? Think about this. Donald Trump was impeached for a phone call to the Ukrainian president that everybody saw or heard the transcript, everybody testified, all that stuff, but yet they still impeached him with almost no evidence of any wrongdoing, if any. Joe Biden admitted that he manipulated, quid pro quo Joe, the Ukrainian government to fire a prosecutor that we now, without a shadow of a doubt, know that he was covering up for his crime family and his son, Hunter Biden. You can't see this enough, but if you're needing evidence, and as I say, I don't think it even matters, but if you need evidence, this is all you actually should need. Play it. I think we're playing here we go.
Corruption. They made, I'll give you one concrete example. I was, not but it just happened to be, that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
That's good. Son of a whatever. There's more evidence in that 2 or 3 minute video than in every single thing they used to impeach Donald Trump. Yet Biden's still on the ticket. So I maintain that evidence is irrelevant when it comes to progressive agenda. Progresso world is literally on our doorstep, ladies and gentlemen. It is time that we stood up, rise up, and cast it out. Be gone, as they say. You know what? They put you in the head and you fall back. Be gone. We need to get the demons out, baby, because they are out at our doorstep as we speak. But there's more evidence in that video than they used to impeach Donald Trump. Yet Joe Biden is on the verge of becoming president of the United States. God help us if he does. In the most aggressive moves to knock out registered voters, back to the story, registered votes in modern memory, Republicans have already sought to nullify ballots before they are counted in several states that could be the balance of the Electoral College. More aggressive. So the Republicans are more aggressive about suppressing the vote and everything. I mean, are they more aggressive than the all mail-in, cheat ballots? The cheat by mail ballots? Is that, I mean, how aggressive is that? To knowingly, and believe me, the Democrats know this, mail ballots to people that are dead or hadn't lived in the domicile that they're mailing it to for decades. There is countless evidence of that, but evidence doesn't matter. Are they more aggressive than the Democrats just want to do away with the Electoral College, period, or have tried a movement to ignore the Electoral College and the Constitution by unifying their votes? They're trying to do unconstitutional things on a daily basis, but yet the Republicans are more aggressive. Are they more aggressive than the Democrats changing the rules, bypassing the state legislatures and changing the rules within days, literally, of the election? I mean, that's what they were doing up in Pennsylvania. If you want to know what that case is, let me just tell you really quickly. The controversial part of that case is that they changed it to where, yeah, they talk about, you can count absentee ballots 3 days after. That's true. You could before. But what they don't tell you is what the not legislation, but what the election changes, because they bypassed the legislature to do this. They're saying that they can be counted for longer than 3 days, and they don't even, not postmarked, because of the state law was they have to be postmarked by election day. Now they're saying they don't even have to be postmarked at all. And they got 3 days to count them after that so they could gather them up. And they don't have to verify signatures, for God's sakes. So don't tell me that the Republicans have been more aggressive. The Democrats have been, at the very least, as aggressive. I would say more. In early test of one effort, a federal judge in Texas on Monday ruled against local Republicans who wanted to compel state officials to throw out more than 127,000 ballots. Sounds egregious, right? But check this out. Cast at a newly created drive-through polling places in the Houston area. And understand this, they're talking about drop boxes with no monitoring whatsoever. There's no monitoring. Anybody can drop 2 ballots, 1,000 ballots, it don't matter. That's what the Republicans were challenging, that aspect of it. The federal court ruling, which Republicans say they would appeal, came after a state court has ruled against them. Well, in the Houston area, it's all liberal, right? But newly created drive-through polling places, newly created without the state legislature, that's the key. And that's where SCOTUS could come in. And certainly there are no chances for fraud in that system, is there? And while we're on Texas, I got to mention something. We played the video, I think, yesterday. I told you how to check out our podcast earlier, but YouTube is a great way. Spell it all the way out. John Martin Talks. But, the irony of that bus chase, I would call it, where they had the Biden bus in Texas and it was surrounded by, going from one event to another, surrounded by Trump supporters. And it comes out now that supposed wreck that they had, there was actually caused by a Biden staffer in a chase car, so to speak. But here's the most ironic part of it. You have the Democrats who are talking about defund the police. What did Kamala Harris say? Reimagine the funding. And Biden tried to be slick, saying, "Oh, we're gonna defer it, deflect it, or something like that." Basically, they're all for defunding the police. There's no question about it. But who, when they were threatened by the evil Trump supporters, who did the Biden staffers call? The police. It's just crazy, man. You can't make this stuff up. In key counties in Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Republicans are seeking, with mixed results so far, to force election board offices to give their election observers more open access. They just want to watch, right? So they can be more effectively challenge absentee ballots as they are processed, a tactic, they say here, Republicans in North Carolina are seeking to adopt statewide. So, what a radical idea. They don't want people to be looking at the ballots, and the Republicans want to watch it. And I've been involved in some of this before. It's not like there's a bunch of, what they call us, jackbooted thugs coming in there, with our weapons and our hound dogs, where they're growling at, "Arr!" While we're counting the ballot. Republicans are some of the nicest people you ever want to meet, man. It's just unbelievable. But the Democrats always want to hide what they're doing. Have you noticed that? They always want to hide what they're doing. They literally tried to hide the impeachment of Donald Trump. Remember old Shifty Schiff? You hadn't heard his name much lately. But he had the hearings of Donald Trump in the basement, in the bowels of the state capitol. And there's old Shifty Schiff. And you know what? If you vote for Joe Biden, you could be voting for that dude, to be the next head of the CIA. That's the rumors. God help us, man. Come on. But they hid impeachment, yet they're worried about Republicans watching the voting process. Crazy. So you want old Uranus up there, Mr. Shifty Schiff, to be the next head of the CIA. Just don't vote for Donald Trump. Vote for Biden, I guess. I'm not calling for that, but that's what you'll be doing. And back to the article. And everywhere, this is Billy Bob Bass tells me to get back to the article. He's my psychic sidekick, by the way. Keeps me straight. Yeah, I'm a bit crazy on here. I, make fishing great again. I'm a fish whisperer. He keeps me straight. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. Back to the article, he tells me. And everywhere in a year that has seen record levels of early voting and a huge surge in the use of vote by mail, which is different than absentee. We've talked about that before. Republicans are gearing up to challenge ballots with missing signatures or unclear postmarks. Oh my God, what a breaking news story that is. Let me get this straight. So Republicans are gearing up to challenge ballots with missing signatures and unclear postmarks. How radical are these Republicans, man? They want people to actually have real signatures, and they want them to be postmarked by Election Day, and that is radical. In the last days of campaigning, Mr. Trump has essentially admitted that he does not expect to win without going to court. Really? And this is what Trump said, and this is what they're interpreting as saying that he can't win without going to court. As soon as the election is over, he said, we're going in with our lawyers, because what he's assuming is that they're going to cheat. He's not saying that he can't win if they don't invalidate ballots. What he's admitting is he can't lose. These are my words. What I think he's admitting is that he can't lose unless the Democrats cheat. That's what he's saying. I speak Trumpanese. That's what he's saying. I guess because I'm a Chumpanese, right? I speak Trumpanese because I'm one of the chumps, man. I'm an official Trump chump now. I'm not a basket of deplorables. I was confused about that versus Draeger society. Maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I'm part of that 15% that are just bad or ugly. No, I'm not one of them ugly people that Mr. Biden talked about. But he has labeled a lot of us Trump chumps, and Ocasio-Cortez doubled down on that. We talked about that yesterday. So I am less confused than I have ever been. I am now declaring myself a Trump chump, and I think I'm in some pretty good company. After months of claiming that any election outcome other than a victory for him, talking about the president, would have to have been rigged, the president used his final days on the campaign trail to cast doubt on the very process of tabulating the count, suggesting without any evidence that any votes counted after Tuesday, no matter how legal, must be suspect. Now, rigged. The president has been saying that the election, they're trying to rig the election. Now, I wonder where he ever got that idea, bless his heart. Where did he ever come up with that? He just must have pulled it out of thin air. Well, I'm going to pull something out of thin air from over here and show you why he might think it's rigged. Check this out.
Couple of scenarios that they're looking toward. One is messing up absentee balloting so that they then get maybe a narrow advantage in the Electoral College on Election Day. Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
There you go. Straight from old Hildebeest's mouth. When I talk about Hillary, I want to tell you, I was murdered. I didn't commit suicide, just in case. Now, I know I'm a small fish in a big pond, but Hillary scares me. She's going to be an electoral, by the way, of the state of New York. I just hope she has to cast. Wouldn't it be something, man, if Donald Trump actually won New York and Hillary Clinton had to cast her vote for Donald J. Trump? You talk about poetic justice, man. That would be it. But wonder where Donald Trump got the idea that they might be rigging it, because Hillary Clinton is just telling you right there that they literally are planning on rigging it. They don't want Joe Biden to concede no matter what happens. No matter we have our Trump rally November 3rd. Today, baby, is election day. Get on out there and do your part, man. But Hillary Clinton tells you flat out that they're planning on challenging this thing and playing all kind of shenanigans. And challenging the vote probably the least of our worries. They might try to kill us, man. I mean, that's what we're gearing up for, it looks like. Mr. Trump comes to the fight, back to the article, having shown a willingness to use the levers of power. Donald Trump is he's the everything that Donald Trump does is unique, good, bad, or whatever. Never been done before. And some of that's right, and why we voted for the man and why we want him up there for 4 more years, because he's really just getting started when it comes to draining that swamp. Mr. Trump comes to the fight having shown a willingness to use the levers of power to further his personal political interests. They're our political interests. Donald Trump's not president to self-aggrandizement. He's president because he actually takes up for the average common working person, and they hate him for it. Democrats, never Trumpers, they hate him for it, man. But it says his personal political interests in ways few other presidents have, so it's extraordinary. Oh, really? Really? So presidents haven't used their personal power. I can think of one that just recently did it. I'm going to play a couple of videos from, God himself, Obama. Check it out.
What could you do? First of all, couldn't you just have them down here and refuse to let them leave the room until you have a deal?
Jessica, I am not a dictator. I'm the president. So ultimately,
that's good enough. That's what I want. He said he's not a dictator. He's the president, right? Now that sounds really good, because Obama talked about that. Now keep in mind what he was talking about there was basically a big amnesty deal, and why he couldn't just do it himself. And he said, I'm not a dictator. But I guess he thought about it a little bit. Maybe he prayed about it. Maybe he just listened to Michelle Obama or somebody. And not too long after he said he wasn't a dictator, he said and did this. Check it out.
I'm going to be working with Congress where I can to accomplish this. But I'm also going to act on my own if Congress is deadlocked. I've got a pen to take executive actions where Congress won't, and I've got a telephone to rally folks around the country on this mission.
So much for the dictator. Turns out he was a dictator. I got a phone and I got a pen. I mean, good Lord, man. And the media celebrated that. Donald Trump tries to protect us from terrorists, and he's xenophobic, everything but a child of God. He tries to protect us from the coronavirus, and Biden basically calls him a xenophobe and a racist for not letting the Wuhan flu come in on us. I mean, it is unbelievable. But this was all about granting amnesty, is what the two videos I just showed you. Of course, Biden and Harris both one up the president in granting amnesty, and literally have come out and campaigned and made promises that they would destroy America. If you think I'm being over dramatic, check this out.
If your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay, let me.
Right there, did you see Biden raise his hand, Harris say all that, for free health care to illegal immigrants. Free. What, American citizens don't get free health care, but illegal aliens would. You know what that would be? You know what would happen to our border? You couldn't build a wall high enough that they wouldn't tunnel under, go over, around, or whatever. It would literally be the end of America. And I'm not knocking people who are trying to get here. I don't blame them, man. If I was in Guatemala stuck there, I'd be trying to get the heck out too. But if Biden and Harris, who both said they want to give free medical care to illegal immigrants, if that actually happens, it's the end of America as we know it. There's just no doubt about it. But maybe that's what they actually want. Because here are some hardcore, the militia, if you will, of the Democratic Party telling you what they hope for any future of the United States of America. Check it out.
No USA at all. No Trump, no wall. No USA at all. No Trump, no wall. No USA at all. No Trump, no wall. No
USA at all. Did you get that? Are you listening, people out there? Are you listening, quote, moderate Democrats, if there are any of you left? Are you listening, people who love America? That was Antifa chanting, no borders, no wall, no USA at all. Because if we have no borders and no wall and no Trump, they chanted that part, we will have no USA at all. I've been telling you for years now, but certainly for months, take these progressives at their word. I believe every word they say as far as what their plan is. And how could I possibly state it clearer than Antifa that they want no borders, no wall. They want no USA at all. If you don't vote for Trump, that's what you're voting for. I'm just telling it like it is. And if you don't think that the mainstream of the Democratic Party and their leaders believe that, of course, maybe they dismiss Antifa because somebody like this guy, check it out.
Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI, FBI.
That's good enough. Antifa is an idea. Well, what is that idea, Joe? No border, no wall, no USA at all? Is that the idea? It's one heck of an idea you're behind. No USA at all. Wow. I mean, hey, that's the one. They're saying it, man. And maybe you believe this other Democratic leader. Play it.
That's happening in Portland right now?
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere online. There's fires and riots.
We got to get you out of here, sir. You're speaking the truth. You're about to screw up. Antifa is a myth. Well, is that why they're building? We're going to talk about it more in a few minutes. Building that big, basically, fortress around the White House right now because of Antifa, the myth, the idea. Oh my Lord, man! But Billy Bob tells me, he just told me that you shouldn't be surprised. You shouldn't be surprised, and he's right. Because if you've been watching my show at all for the last couple of years, and tens of thousands, if not hundreds, I've actually had views of over 200,000. So I'm reaching out there, and I appreciate it so much. I really do. So keep sharing it, keep liking it, keep pushing us far and wide, because, things like Facebook and algorithm trying to throttle us back. But we're going to keep going as long as we possibly can. Check out our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. And I told you how to look at that at the beginning. It's in the show link. If you look at the link is in the description of our show. Watch the video, no matter where or when you're watching it. Look above it. You'll see a link to Big Daddy Unlimited. Factory direct pricing of all things Second Amendment, from guns, ammo to tactical gear, thousands of items delivered directly to your doorstep. But one of the things I've been telling you, and that's why Billy Bob tells me you shouldn't be surprised, as I told you back when the Democratic primary was happening, when they had like 500 people run at 20 people, whatever, that no matter who came out of that race, no matter who, the head of the ticket for the Democratic Party was going to be the most progressive, in some cases could have been outright communist, and I'm believing it's that way anyway, certainly behind the scenes, that any major party had ever put forward. And let me tell you, I was right. I was right, because Joe Biden fits that bill. And if you don't believe me, take it from these progressives. Take it from the horses, or I guess I should say, because they're jackasses, the jackass's mouth. Check it out.
Lastly, I think that, notwithstanding the fact I think I have laid out the most detailed plans on the economy and on issues relating to health care and the rest of any president in modern history. I mean, it's awful detail. If I'm elected and this passes, I'm going to be good to go down as one of the most progressive presidents in American history.
What more do you want, ladies and gentlemen? The man just told you, Joe Biden, that he will be the most progressive president in U.S. history. And if he, in fact, God help us, becomes president, you know what will be history? The United States of America under the Constitution. That's for sure. Because they want exactly what they said earlier. No border, no wall. Joe Biden gets elected. God help us, no USA at all. I'm just I'm playing what they're saying. It's not that bad. But know who you're voting for today. And I don't know if it's too late to change your vote. But know who you're voting for. You're voting for Joe Biden, a Trojan horse, without a doubt. Mike Pence was right about that. And Billy Bob says, he tells me that we may not actually know who we're voting for, and he's probably right. Check this out.
A Harris administration together with Joe Biden. A
Harris administration with Joe Biden. Think about that for a minute. She is actually admitting that it is a Harris administration, because it's like, hey, I'm the main act here, and oh, by the way, I'm bringing Joe along with me. I mean, that's what you're voting for. I'm just saying, that may be a great thing to you, to have Kamala Harris as the next actual president of the United States. I just want you to know who you're voting for or not voting for, because you're voting for Kamala Harris, who has never received a vote for president, to be probably the next president of the United States. And what Congress said when she's in the U.S. Senate was labeled the most progressive senator in the Congress, period. Even more progressive than Bernie Comrade Sanders. I mean, I'm just telling you, know who you're voting for or not voting for. The president, I get something here the president said. He said, I think, and think about this. I'm going to tell you, this is one of the most radical ideas I have ever heard, man. The president said, I think it's terrible that we can't know the results of an election the night of the election. Oh my God, imagine that. I mean, that's like Donald Trump refuses a peaceful surrender, all because he wants us to have an election that the world can see on election night. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Talking about the world, I probably should have downloaded some of these videos. Maybe I'll put them on my Facebook site later. The world, at least certain places, people that really know what freedom means and how endangered it is, are praying and pushing and protesting for Donald Trump. Right now, as we speak, they are at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem praying. Jewish people are praying. You know those dangerous Jews that are taking over New York City? The Jews for Trump that had to be stopped at any cost? Yeah, those folks over in Israel, they're praying for Donald Trump. They had a parade last night in downtown Jerusalem where it looked like a Trump parade in America. They got Trump flags flying, blowing their horns, and they're playing bump, bump, bump. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Donald Trump, man, you can be anything. You can be happy. They were playing it, blasting it out in Jerusalem last night, man. And over in Hong Kong right now, literally as we speak right now, there are people protesting in the streets, risking their very lives supporting Donald Trump's reelection in the streets of Hong Kong right now. I bring that up because you think about the Jewish people and all they have been through, and they're for Trump in Israel. I can't understand why any Jewish American, especially if you care about Israel, would ever vote Democratic, let alone not vote for Superman Donald Trump. But the people who understand how precarious freedom actually is in Israel are pushing for Trump. The people who literally have their lives on the line in communist China are pushing for Donald Trump. The least we could do is go vote for the man today and bring some friends with us. I mean, I'm just telling it like it is, man. But we could, you know, it's a radical idea that we could have the election in on election night. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have the power to end this thing today. We do. We could make it all a moot point. All we need to do, and I don't think there's any explanation necessary for this next, what do they call it, a gift? Like a gift. Check this out. That red wave, man. That's what we need. We need that red wave to come rolling in, baby. If we get out and do our part, if we get the red wave going, there is nothing that will stop us. We can make it all a moot point if we have a full red wave election. You need to vote today. You need to make that ballot so red. Send a clarion message out there so red that it looks like a fire truck. That's the way I see it. You know, do what you want, but understand who you're voting for if you don't vote for Donald Trump. But when I see that red wave, man, when I see that thing coming, you know what it makes me? It makes me kind of channel my inner Eagles. Yeah, Eagles. Freedom. The Eagles like the band. I got a peaceful, easy feeling. I feel good. I don't know about you. But let's have this Trump rally today, November 3rd. Massive Trump rally at every precinct in America, from sea to shining sea, from the hills to the plains to the mountaintops, and everything in between. We need that Trump rally today. I'm imploring you guys to be happy warriors, out there, but warriors nonetheless. Nonetheless, that's what we need. We need a bunch of happy warriors. We need to be prepared to keep the fight going until we get Donald Trump re-elected 4 more years. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to do this next story, and I got to tell you, it breaks my heart to even talk about this next story. And this is from CBS News. U.S. braces for possible election day violence and unrest. Look at the White House. This is what breaks my heart. Look at the White House, man. This is our house. And we've got to protect that house. And we got to build a fence around it so high because of the threats from the armed wing of the Democratic Party, Antifa. Believe me, it ain't the Proud Boys you got to worry about. It ain't MAGA hat wearing sons of guns, dregs of society, basket deplorables, Trump chumps like myself you got to worry about. They're building that because if Joe Biden loses, Antifa has come out and said they're going to have 100,000 people bum rushing the White House. Now, let me tell you, I'm not advocating this, but because I don't want it to happen. But if they cross that unscalable fence, as they're calling it, then I think they need to go Grady Judd on them. And Grady Judd is the sheriff down here in Polk County, down near Tampa area, Polk County, man. He's the one that when they asked him years ago, he kind of got famous on CNN after a dude shot one of his deputies, killed one of his deputies, and they found the dude. They finally found him, and they shot him 65 times. I think it was 60 something. I think it's 65. And the CNN reporter said, well, why'd you shoot him 65 times? And old Grady Judd looked right in there and said, 'cause we ran out of bullets. He's also the one that said about these rioters and looters, if they come into his town, that his people in Polk County love guns, they have guns, they know how to use guns, and he advocates that they blow you out the door you kick in. I love me some Grady Judd. I'm just saying, if you go over that fence, they should be shooting till they run out of bullets. It should be known. I don't think they have to get more than about 10. My buddy said when I talked to him on my way into work today, give my buddy Cliff a shout out. He's already voted, carried multiple peoples to the polls, and as we speak is standing on a corner waving his Trump and American flag down in Sarasota right now. So I go out all out for people like that. But he said they'd only have to do about 5, because I said 10 or more if they take them out. And I don't want that to happen. But if you go over that fence, you deserve it. But I believe they'd be running home to mama. But that's just the way I see it. I don't want that to happen. But if it does, that's it. Freedom has never been free. Never. And it's never been safe to leave the cave, ladies and gentlemen. Security is being tightened across the country due to concerns about unrest linked to Election Day. Now, steel fencing went up around the White House complex on Monday, and the New York City Police Department put businesses on alert. I guess they worried about them storming Jews. Businesses on alert as stores there and around the country board up as a precaution. Concerns about unrest. I'm so sick of hearing about mostly peaceful protests or concerns about unrest. I'm not concerned about somebody not getting enough sleep or they're a bit agitated. I'm concerned about people bum rushing businesses, destroying people's American dream. They're not boarding that up like Candace Owens, I saw her last night talking about how they're boarding up Rodeo Drive and they're painting "We support Black Lives Matter" on their wall. At the same time, they're talking about right-wing extremists. Why are they painting "We support Black Lives Matter" on the plywood? Who do you think they're afraid of? The communist Black Lives Matter group. That's what they are. Or the real fascist Antifa. That's why they're doing that. Well, we only got a little bit of time left. Here's one of the slogans that they have come out with. Elections, no. Revolutions, yes. I'm telling you, know who you're voting for. And I was going to play this Cuomo deal. I don't have enough time, where he talked about, whoever said that protests need to be peaceful. Cuomo, I don't usually call people idiots, but he's an idiot. The First Amendment, sir, actually says that you have the right to peaceful assembly. You don't have the right to burn and pillage and loot, man. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this election is bigger than Donald Trump. It is about tyranny versus freedom, period. We have got to man the ramparts, the political ramparts today. Today is the last day we have to do it for a couple of months. Because if we don't man the political ramparts, we're going to have to man the real ones for sure. And that would be a dadgum shame. I want to put up, if we can, that peaceful thing that makes me feel at peace. This is what we need, ladies and gentlemen. I'll close the show with it. We need that red wave. We need that peace and harmony. Happy warriors, but warriors nonetheless. That's what we need. That's going to be the cure-all. Vote red, baby. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page. Like it, share it with others. Remember our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. We're going to have that watch party tonight. Tune in to our Facebook network so you'll see the coverage. But above all else, ladies and gentlemen, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day. Vote!